Yeah, very simply, we are building a one-to-one backed, fiat-backed, USD-backed stable coin on PulseChain. The working title that we're using right now is just Coast Stablecoin, or CST. I realize that's a time zone in the US as well, though. So
It is.
we might focus group that and see if we come up with something else. I'm sure
It's
there'll be a
521 CST right now.
there you go. So that might end up changing, but for now, that's the working title. We're trying our best to work within the US securities and financial regulators and to work with them to make sure that they're aware of our project. So I was redlining an 8-page letter to FinCEN this morning that's going to be requesting a determination letter from them and a few other bits and pieces. So we're actively pursuing a product and a vision for our company that is working hand in hand with regulators, so that we're not going to be playing catch up later, and we're not going to be putting users at risk by creating something that that regulators are going to come down on later and say that we shouldn't have been doing. So
peace of mind for yourselves as well.
Yeah, look, it's a lot of extra work. Comparatively speaking, releasing a smart contract compared to all of the real world legwork we have to do here is comparatively easy. But luckily, we have that capability, and that's kind of why I was talking about what we did with that investment club vehicle for the Pulse sacrifices, right? Is like, yeah, there are on-chain solutions for some of these things, but there's also, in some circumstances, like you have to use real world TradFi or legitimate corporate structures to actually get this stuff done and be regulated accordingly. So we've decided to go that route. We're not going to do an algo stablecoin, because really what we want is for people to get economic energy onto the Pulse chain as simply as they can, with as little counterparty risk as possible, and maintaining as much sovereignty as humanly possible. So that's the vision. It's relatively similar to what Trust Token does, getting you TUSD on the Ethereum blockchain. There are some notable differences where the key difference I would suggest is that our bank account structure is going to be such that people who use the stable coin will be beneficiaries of the bank account, as opposed to like a trust token model where they're the owners of the bank account, they have the asset, the bank account is tied to their tax file number and such. In the case of our system, it's really as close to like you buying your own stable coin with your own money as you can kind of get, at least in the current regulatory environment. I suppose that could change in future, but that's what we're trying to create right now.
So that's a good point too on the you said not an algorithmic stablecoin. What is the difference between TUSD and CST and the other types of stablecoins?
Yeah, there's multiple different ways of trying to create an asset that is pegged to something else or backed by something else. So people have made attempts to, for example, back a stable coin with silver, or to back a stable coin with other stable coins, for example. In the case of what we're doing, we're really just trying to create a one-to-one backed asset where anytime you own a CST on chain, it entitles you to redeem it for $1 sent to a bank account. And that
sounds like a bridge in that way.
It is a bridge between a bank account and the blockchain. You could think of it that way. Yeah, certainly. The best way that I've found to describe it is that the CST that you own on chain isn't a dollar. It's a representation of a dollar. It entitles you to a dollar from the bank account. Now, I need to clarify that requires you to go through KYC. That requires you to have an account with us. That requires you to be, acting in such a way that you're not going to put our company or our bank at regulatory risk because you're doing something nefarious, right? So there are limits on who can withdraw CST for fiat currency. That sort of changes depending on what jurisdiction you're operating in. But in general terms, a CST is worth $1 because there's $1 in a bank account backing it.
Okay. And as far as redemptions go, like can you just kind of walk us through, the process if someone were to go use the service, things like that? Like what, I know you haven't, maybe maybe there's something on testnet, maybe not, but kind of walk us through the user experience of how this would actually work when someone's over there just, oh, I want to get, I want to get PLS, I want to get Hex, I want to get whatever you support from my bank account. How does that work from start to finish?
Yeah, so there are really three components to the business. There's the fiat on-ramp, which is getting your economic energy from your bank account on chain. There's the stable coin, which represents your economic energy on chain. And then there's the fiat off-ramp, which allows you to exchange on-chain value back to fiat currency in your bank account. And there are companies that do one or multiple of these things. But it's really important to have all three together, because there are tons of different ways to like do a fiat on ramp, but there are significantly fewer fiat off ramps in crypto. And similarly, like there are tons of algorithmic stablecoins, for example, but having an algo stablecoin on chain doesn't allow you to get economic energy on chain. So from our perspective, our minimum viable product was always, we need an on-ramp, we need an off-ramp, and we need the stable so that we have all three of those areas covered. So from a user perspective, it's going to be very simple to create a user account on the Coast website, email address, password kind of stuff. You will have to go through KYC checks though. We are using a group that is able to provide internationalized KYC. So typically the best way to do this from what I've understood from speaking to them is using phone numbers, because it's once you include country codes, there's very, very little duplication of phone numbers worldwide. Yeah. It's actually a little bit easier to get access to those records than it is to, like, say, for example, social security numbers, which tend to be in a whole bunch of different formats globally. Some of them utilize letters, some of them utilize, different dashes in different places and things. But our KYC will be internationalized so that we can reach a whole bunch of different markets. So you'll have to go through that, but it should be the same process for pretty much everybody, no matter where you are. And then once you're KYC'd and you're in the system, you're actually already in our ledger, in our bank account. So anytime you want to do transactions, you pick a payment method, you choose a payment amount, you then instigate a transaction from your payment method to our bank account. And as soon as it settles, our system actually is automated such that it mints, well, actually, I should clarify this. It allocates your CST for you, and then it allows you to mint it from the contract. So that's a key difference between, it's a key difference for why we don't believe that we're a money transmitter, is because you're sending money from your bank account to the shared bank account that supports the stablecoin. And then you're actually minting your own stablecoin from the contract. It's not being sent to you. So from our perspective as the administrators and the people who set up the system, we're not in the flow of funds at all. And that's why I like to describe it as like as close to you mint your own stablecoin as possible, because you literally do. You do the bank transaction and you provide the mint function on chain, on PulseChain, and then it's in your Pulse address and you can do whatever you like with it. In terms of, okay, or if we want to stop there and maybe clarify anything in there, we can.
I mean, I got some questions queued, but I just wanted to say, just so we get through the process, to remind everyone. So you go to the website, you sign up, you do KYC. There's a check that happens. I think I was listening on the other stream. It's basically you get like validated or not validated. And then after that, I guess that, that field is like, okay, this person who signed in can trade, can make transactions. And then you just sort of, are we good from there? Like, what can you do once you authenticate all that stuff, then what kind of transactions can you perform?
So the only transaction you'll be able to perform on the Coast website using our dApp directly is the purchasing of CST or the sale of CST, which is actually a burn function, which is where we become a little bit different from Trust Token. So you won't be able to trade anything on the Coast website. We will not provide a facility for you to buy Pulse or PulseX or PHEX or anything else. Really, this is all about getting your economic energy into your PulseChain wallet, and then allowing you to do whatever you want with it. So we will most likely have like a trading or an exchange tab on the website somewhere. that'll allow you to interface with the PulseX exchange, and you'll do all your trading there. So it'll be on a DEX. It'll all be decentralized. We will not be in the flow of funds there either, because when you start to do that, you become either an exchange or potentially a securities broker dealer, and we're not going to pursue that licensure either. So we're trying to stay out of that as much as possible.
So you use the platform in order to get fiat into CST, and then that drops in your wallet, and then you take that CST, and there'll be, you know, liquidity pairs for other things to trade it against. That's the idea.
Yeah, some of the things that we will probably have to do as an organization will be, one, create like a pretty large float for CST generally. So because the asset is one-to-one backed by US dollars, we can't necessarily rely on just organic user growth to be able to have enough of it to create the liquidity on chain. So we will probably have to provide a float in some way. You know, we could raise money privately or even do it on chain in order to do that. But we have to get enough CST into the system such that it can be paired with things and it can be useful. So that money will probably come with us, or come from us, be put into the bank account, and then CST will be minted as a result. And then we will probably go through the process as well of either acquiring PulseX, Hex, etc., and pairing it with CST, or given the fact that we were in those sacrifices, we'll probably have a pretty substantial amount of it to do that with. So all that float stuff for liquidity will come from us initially. Although obviously, being, you know, a DEX on PulseX, anybody else would be welcome to contribute as well.